Lab Coat Agents, let's welcome Shon Kokoszka again, and this time with Random Acts of Coaching. We've got Nick Baldwin with us too. Nick.
Oh, it's an honor to be here, everybody.
How did that happen?
I just decided to show up. I can't miss Shon.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't miss Shon.
Well, I'm honored, guys.
So let's get going, Shon. Today we're going to be talking about lead conversion, but if you've listened to anything that Shon said in the last few months, it's not just lead conversion. He's probably going to break it down and be like, this is exactly how you do it, and it's a science. Right, Shon?
Well, that's right. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk through systems today, guys, systemizing your sales process. We're going to touch on lead generation, lead conversion, of course, yet really a system to me. Well, guys, it's nothing more. It's nothing less than a standardized process that produces a consistent and predictable result. Now, it obviously used to drive me crazy when my agents would show up to a buyer consultation or a listing presentation, and they were like, boy, I wonder what's going to come out of my mouth today. Meaning, we all have had that listing appointment where we go out and we just crush it. I mean, whatever their objection was, we knew exactly what to say, exactly how to say it. We connected, we had this rapport, and it was just like awesome, right? You walk out the door with a signed listing agreement and you're thinking to yourself, well, that was awesome, yet could I do that again? And conversely, we've had that listing appointment where we go out and it's like boots in the dryer, right? I mean, it's just clunky. They're saying things and whatever comes out of your mouth, you're thinking, what was that? And you leave without a signed listing contract and you beat yourself up a little bit. You think, well, what just happened? I mean, last week I went on a listing presentation and it was awesome. And today it was like, what just happened? So today I'm going to talk about specifically just systemizing your buyer process. See, when I started in real estate, guys, I was just 20 years old and found, I had like 2 first years in this business because at 20 years old, you know everything, don't you? and it was like my way.
I know it all. I knew it all.
Of course. And my way was the only way. And of course, I'm doing this the right way. Now, it wasn't until I opened my mind to coaching, recognizing success leaves clues, and that there are others that have gone before us that have paved the path to success, that I then opened my mind to coaching, to planning, to systemizing. I got my Michael Gerber E-Myth certification back in '94. And when I came back from that, I got to tell you, I was hell-bent on systemizing everything within our office. In fact, my mother, Diana Kokoszka, and I, we wrote 19 systems books and systemized a real estate sales team within an organization. So we've got all of those systems, and I systemized the buyer process. Here's where I was going with this, to the point where I could close over 100 buyer side transactions per year, year after year, with one assistant. And guys, let's face it, buyers take a lot of time. And the only way you can get to that level of production is if you leverage appropriately through systems, meaning do it the same way every time to produce a consistent and predictable result. Of course, you're going to tweak it, you're going to split test it, you're going to modify it to find the proven best practices associated with, lead conversion, converting that appointment to a signed buyer agency agreement, to ultimately get them under contract and buy a house. So I'm going to walk you guys all through that process today, right now. So with that said, before I dive into the slideshow, what questions do you guys have? Nick, Tristan, any thoughts? Any questions?
Well, man, I'm excited because every time you're coaching, because you're really coaching us, right? And then everyone else gets to see. That's how I see it. When you're coaching us like this, you're always blowing my mind because we're exposed to almost every coach out there. And to be able to see the way that you think and how that translates into paper or into the computer, it just always makes me happy that you've done that for us because you've simplified it. And it always reminds me of what Steve Jobs said, and that the genius is in the simplification, right?
No doubt about it. Well, success is simple. What we're looking for is straight lines from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. And yet what I find is a lot of people, they don't have clarity to the plan. They don't have clarity to the leverage points. And therefore, they make the next logical decision. And rather than going this straight line, they just bounce up, they bounce down, they go backward, they go forward. And a lot of times run out of time, run out of energy, run out of money. And they're forced to give up instead of go up. That's not this class today, guys. I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk through how to apply leverage to your business model. Now, leverage comes in 4 basic categories in my humble opinion. The first, well, it's their models. So I'm talking about your economic model, your budget model, your lead generation, lead follow-up models, as well as, and I think the secret sauce to team development is your compensation models. Now I've identified 8 different ways that you can compensate individuals, and I've developed the appropriate compensation models for each position on the team, because what we want to do, gang, is we want to leverage compensation. We want to use it as this kind of friendly weapon that's going to keep people first, to retain people, to keep them on the team. Second, to motivate them to keep expenses as low as possible and profits, net profits, as high as possible. So I've investigated thousands of hours in investigating the right compensation models, learning lessons from executives at companies like McDonald's and FedEx and Panasonic and T-Mobile and Sport Clips and Genentech, and learning those compensation models, how to apply that to a real estate team, guys. And that becomes the secret sauce of your team development, ultimately your expansion models and everything else. So with that said, and without further delay, I just want to share a couple of things with you before we dive into the systemizing the buy side of your business, what we'll talk about this time. And I want to share with you that at Icon Coaching, we have released a new training program for realtors that is cutting edge, guys. This program gets people to take massive action, and the results are 8 new contracts in just 28 days. So it's 4 days of presentation completed over a 28-day period. Yet SOAR, well, it's an acronym. It stands for Success Other Agents Realize. So it's based in the proven best practices of the top performers in our industry. As I said earlier, success, well, it leaves clues, right? The smart person, they're going to learn from their own mistakes, right? The smarter people, well, they learn from the mistakes of others. And the smartest people of all, well, they learn from the successes of other individuals. So at Icon Coaching, every single month, guys, I get the honor, the privilege of flying out to somebody's office that I consider to be a quote unquote icon, right? Somebody who's just crushing it in real estate sales. And I study their models. I study their systems. I interview their people. I look at their technology. I look at everything that they're doing, which, by the way, I'm just going to backtrack a sec. I said there's 4 key components to leverage. The first is models, right? Second is through systems, and we're going to talk through that today. Doing it the same way every single time, producing a consistent and predictable result. Third, it's through technology, and these icons that you see up here on the screen. I get to study the technology that they're leveraging to achieve extraordinary success. Like, for example, Mark Spain, one of our current clients, he's crushing it. I mean, 3,100 transactions last year, the #1 producing team on the face of the planet. We got like Brian North. What's that?
That's insane, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little echo there. I thought you were saying something. Yeah, no doubt. Right? And Brian North, solid up and comer. I mean, I got to tell you, this young man, he's closing well into the 400 or 500 transactions. He started his own brokerage, North & Co., and he's now leveraging his team to really achieve extraordinary things. Like Rhonda and Frank Duffy, they were one of my favorites. They've developed this disruptive model in the real estate community that brings a lot more listings to the table for all of us to sell. So nevertheless, these guys are just crushing it, and these are the people that I study. Now, of course, I've sold over 4,000 homes in my real estate career. My team did, right? And we've developed the models, the systems, the technology, and people to really help you achieve extraordinary success. Yet, I think we have to agree that success does leave clues. Now, Icon Coaching is the concierge that assembles this information, this knowledge into a comprehensive, easy to implement system so that you can achieve extraordinary success. So the SOAR program, by the way, it's coming to a city near you very, very soon, okay? It is a seminar. See, I can't stand seminars, right? Now, with that said, with that said, though, guys, I mean, I do them, as you well know. In fact, I just flew out to San Diego, out there to Coronado Island, and presented with you guys for what was supposed to be 25 minutes, cut down to 14 minutes. That's okay, though. I forgive you. Yet I do them. Right? I do them because it's kind of a requirement of my position here at Icon Coaching, yet I really don't like them, and I'll tell you why. Because I know that 99% of that audience, yeah, sure, they're going to take some great notes and they're going to write down some things, yet I know that they're going to go back to the office and life just happens, right? And that wonderful information that they just learned that they intend to implement and deploy in their organization that's going to dramatically improve their production and their profit, well, it gets stuffed into a drawer, right? And they've got the really smart real estate drawer. The challenge with those type of systems is that it's not lasting change. Now, we've developed a series of what we call icon maxims here at Icon Coaching. They're just phrases that kind of shift your mindset. One of which that is my favorite, or darn close to it, is keep the change. So keep the change. So guys, when we identify something that is a positive, that is going to dramatically improve our production and profit, well, let's keep that change. What I see is that most realtors, they try this. Maybe they don't get the dramatic traction they're after. They hit that natural ceiling of achievement. Then it's on to greener pastures. They're going to do this, they do that, and they're just hemorrhaging money. So again, we've identified the proven best practices. We teach that in SOAR. We teach that to our one-on-one coaching clients. And it's not a seminar. It's a seminat. Now, I want to talk real quick about just some actionable items that you can implement, deploy like immediately. Okay, it's my intention that you leave this webinar, guys, with some powerful information that you can absolutely, and I mean right now, put to work in your organization to increase your profits. So I want to talk through a very simple open house system. Now, this is a system, right? It's done the same way every single time, yet there's a couple of minor tweaks that I want to bring to your attention. So obviously we have our front end campaign leading up to the open house. And it's funny that we get out of things what we put into things, right? Meaning the more energy, the more time, the more resources you push toward this, the more you're going to get out of it. Yet beyond the campaign leading up to it, we've got all that too. I just don't want to take up too much time on this. I want to just first encourage you, use an open house survey. I'm sure all of you do. You know, you can get an iPad. I can't remember the name of the company that put together the app for the iPad or even for your phone, where they just, it's a survey. So essentially we want to find out, is this a prospect that's worth your time? Second, preview all other listings in close proximity. Take copious notes. Now this is critical, because oftentimes a buyer prospect's going to come into your open house and you're going to question them if you're smart, right? You're going to ask them questions like, well, tell me, how does this home compare to some of the others you've seen? So tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like ideal and 1 being terrible, how would you rate this home? Oh, a 6. Interesting. What would you change about it to make it a 10? They say, oh, we need a bigger kitchen. We need a bigger backyard. Whatever it is they say, guys, well, because you've previewed all the other listings in close proximity, when it sparks in your mind that actually the home right down the street is going to suit their needs a little bit better, well, that's when you leave your lender at the open house and you just run out the door and you show them this other home. So that takes a little bit of pre-thought on your part and pre-planning. Contact the listing agents, and let's say you're going to hold this open house from 12 to 2 on Saturday. Well, call all other listing agents in close proximity and say, listen, I'd like to show your listing from 12 to 2. Now, I'm holding an open house at the exact same time. Here's my point and my ask. Is that I might show it to 1 person, I might show it to 10 people, I might not show it to anybody, yet I just want full access to your listing in my open house. Would that be okay? So the bottom line is, guys, the chances of a buyer prospect walking into your open house and buying it, well, it's about 1%. So if you're holding 1 home open, you have a 1% chance of selling that house. Yet if you're holding 6 or 7 properties open, well, I think you've just increased your exposure by 600 or 700%. So set showings on all the listings. Invite your lender to attend the open house, because you're going to leave them there as you tour these buyers around to other properties. Bring your laptop and printer. Now this is critical, okay? Your laptop and printer, because when you have Wi-Fi access and you've got a lightweight inkjet printer that you can buy down at Office Depot for $47, right? When a buyer prospect walks in, let me first ask the question. Hey, Tristan, Nick, do you think that buyer prospects look at homes they can't necessarily afford?
All the time.
All the time.
It happens all the time. Now, even if you've set showings on all other listings in that area, generally speaking, those are going to be similarly priced. So if a buyer prospect walks in, and these aren't clear to your standards, guys, in terms of your average price point, yet let's just say you're holding a $300,000 home open, they can only qualify up to $250,000. Well, you're kind of dead in the water, right? You're stuck in the follow-up game, and that feels like a hamster on a hamster wheel. So rather, when you've got your laptop, you've got access to Wi-Fi, you'd say, I noticed on the sign-in survey that you said you're comfortable up to $250,000. This one's obviously a little bit out of reach at $300,000. However, what I'd like to do is just log into the multiple listing service platform. In a matter of moments, I'll be able to share with you exactly how many properties match your unique criteria. So tell me, how many bedrooms are you looking for in your new house? How many bathrooms? How many car garage? What size home? What style of home? What lot size? Any particular school district? Click the how many button, and let's just say there's 7 listings that match their unique criteria. And you say, I'm just simply going to go ahead and print these off for you right now. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to review them together. We're going to create an A list of properties, which means these are the ones you want to see the inside of. A B list, which means, well, they're not right for one reason or another, right? And here's the goal, guys. The goal of an open house, the goal of a incoming call, the goal of a outbound lead generation call is to position yourself to possess something that your prospect wants. And when you do that, it is simple, and I mean easy, to set an appointment, right? Yeah. So think about it. You printed off these 7 listings. They say that 3 of them made their A list. How easy is it to set an appointment? By the way, my open house ends at 2:00 today. Would you like to look at them right when I'm done? Well, of course. Guys, I've sold more homes to buyers that way than any other way in my real estate career. Now, if you want that full system completely typed out, transcribed with the scripts, the dialogues, everything associated with it, just simply text the word tools to 512-572-4266. Free of charge. It's just right there for you, ready to download. So let's talk a little bit about incoming buyer calls. Now, we talked through last week on the strategy, like especially if you're advertising your listings on Craigslist, which Craigslist does not require that you put a specific price at the home. They're going to call in. They're going to ask questions. We talked through that strategy on the last webinar that we did together. Yet my input to you is always have a buyer lead sheet, whether it's an outbound call that you made to follow up with the buyer lead, or if it's an inbound lead, to have a specific form that you're going to track all this information. By the way, make it a different color piece of paper than anything else in your office. See, at the Kokoszka Group, our buyer lead sheets, well, they were light green. Our seller lead sheets were light yellow. And in a stack of papers on your desk, like you can't see my desk right now, yet I've got probably 40 pieces of paper on it right now. In a stack of papers in your desk, you can pick out those leads very, very quickly. Additionally, when you use a buyer lead sheet, then you don't end up with the sticky note train. And I know exactly what you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Where you're taking notes feverishly. Oh, I ran out of room on that sticky note. I go to the next, I go to the next, I go. Yeah. And then you hang up the call, right? And you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't get their phone number. What? Right? See, here, you just glance down, you say, oh, I failed to ask that question. I assume, Tristan, that because you called me directly, you're not currently obligated to using another real estate agent. Is that right?
That's right.
Which, by the way, is a much better way to say, are you working with a realtor? Because let's face it, they're working with a lot of realtors, right?
Very true. Sean?
Go for it.
Can people get a copy of this, or how do they get a copy of this?
100%. Yes. I mean, I'm an open book, guys. I want to share everything I can. So here's what to do. And in fact, can you type this into the chat section? I might regret this, yet here's my email address. It is shon@iconcoachingrE.com. Go ahead and drop me an email there. I'll be happy to share with you the buyer lead sheet that I leveraged, guys, to help us help me personally close over 100 buyer side transactions per year, with several, by the way, $100,000 GCI months mixed in. So we talked about the ABCs for an appointment. Now, this is just a quick reminder that it's not about you always be closing, right? No offense to Glengarry Glen Ross, guys. I love the movie, right? Always be closing never did anybody any darn good, right? So rather, the new ABCs are action, benefit, commitment. So you as a salesperson, you outline the action. Here's what I want you to do, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, right? Then the moment you outline an action, like for example, well, let's simply set an appointment for you to come to the office. That's an action, right? The moment you outline an action, there's this question that appears within the mind of the prospect, and that's, what's in it for me? Or why should I do that? So we immediately follow the action request with a benefit that is attached to the prospect. In essence, we say, here, Mr. Prospect, this is what's in it for you. Then once we've articulated that benefit, we followed up with a simple alternative choice commitment, right? So I would NLP it up a little bit, neurolinguistic programming, language patterns, like I would add an adverb presupposition at the beginning, like fortunately, right? See, there's nothing fortunate about what I'm about to say, yet when I use that word, you automatically start looking for something to feel fortunate about. So I'm going to start this closing technique with the word fortunately. You know, Nick, in order to get you one step closer to achieving your goal, all we need to do now is simply set an appointment for you to come to the office. I'm going to download all these listings, the photos, obviously, the virtual tours, the drone footage. See, that way, Nick, you get to view them on screen in my office before spending your time or wasting your money on gas to drive by them. Plus, I'm going to share with you several key negotiating strategies that are going to help you get the very best price on the home that you'll ultimately buy. So tell me, when is the best time for you to get together with me? Is it weekdays or weekends? So I trust that you could follow that simple methodology of action first. Here's what I want you to do. Benefit second. Here's what's in it for you when you say yes. And third is commitment, and you go alternative choice. Now, we need ABC scripts for every situation, frankly. In fact, you could leverage this in your personal life, and you're going to get more of what you want when you want it. I promise you. So you'll need them for first-time home buyers, investors, empty nesters, downsizing, for you to get permission for your buyer to call your lender. You can leverage ABC scripts on listing appointments to get the price, the listing commission that you want. So if you want to do a quick screenshot of that, guys, or take out your cell phone, take a picture, this is the action. And this has the adverb presuppositions. It's got the modal operator. It's got 2 embedded commands. Then you insert your benefit there. And of course, the commitment all stays the same. So the benefit is interchangeable. And by the way, when you memorize this becomes a staple of your real estate career. See, because there's really 3 metrics that drive success in this industry that I found. And that's first, knowing what to say. Second, knowing how to say it. And third, saying it to enough people. So you're going to say this 10 times a day, 20 times a day, because the prospect you're on the phone with right now has no idea. You just said it 5 minutes ago to a different prospect, right? And you're going to say it over and over because it works, okay? So let's talk a little bit about qualifying your prospects. See, there's 3 key areas of qualifying. First is motivation. Second, financial. And third, the needs of your prospect. Yet most people just think about financial. See, I think the motivation is the real key to identifying the right prospects, because motivated prospects, well, they're located, they're not created. Yeah. So when you can qualify their motivation aggressively, then I promise you that's going to lead to an appointment. It's going to lead to a signed buyer agency agreement. And that's where we're going to pick it up right now. We're going to pick it up in that initial counseling session. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my system called the 20-point buyer presentation. See, what I've learned is that there's 20 expectations that must be set when working with buyer prospects. And when you set and manage the appropriate expectations, this business becomes really simple. So in fact, it's my opinion that working with buyers, it's nothing more than setting and managing the appropriate expectations. So let's talk about it. First, the goal of this presentation, while there's many things we accomplish, these are the top 6. First, build rapport and gain loyalty with each and every one of our clients. Next, we're going to teach them the rules of the game. See, I argue that you guys do this every single day, and yet these people buy a home once every 8 years, and yet they're going to tell you how to work. I don't think that makes sense, right? So let's teach them the rules of the game. We'll eliminate the intimidation factor. By the way, I don't know if you've been across the table from a $1 million buyer, and maybe your heart rate goes up a little bit. You can feel your blood pressure go up, and you're a little bit nervous. Well, yeah, and certainly I've been there, no doubt. Yet I think that really stems from not knowing exactly what's going to come out of your mouth next. And I think as a result of that, then we get into inactive listening mode because we're just thinking about what we're going to say next. See, when you have a system, it improves your confidence. And it also just allows you to become a really great active listener to your prospects. Next, we'll ask for referrals. In a way that we're going to get them, we're going to show fewer properties to each prospect before they ultimately make an offer, okay? And we're going to get the buyer agency agreement signed every time you want it signed. So, objections and challenges. Tristan, Nick, let's talk about this. When should we handle objections and challenges?
I think you should handle objections before they come up. No?
Brilliant. Dude, you are so smart. That is exactly.
Well, I've been hanging around you.
So the question is, where do you want to invest your time? You know, with me, it's my family, it's my kids. the last thing I want to do is go out the door with an unmotivated prospect, right? So the system in our office was such that once a meeting was scheduled, they would be scheduled to come to the office, because I recognized a long time ago that if I meet them at the house, their energy and attention, it's on the house, not me. If I meet them at a coffee shop, it's on the people in the coffee shop and the coffee, it's not on me. So let's get them to the office where they're forced to focus on you. And that's what you want, right, guys? Of course. So when they came to the office, the call coordinator would hand them a clipboard. And on that clipboard, there were 3 separate documents. The first was the new buyer survey. It's the intake form, just like at the doctor's office, right? So we wanted to know, okay, where did they come from? And we would track that information. We would review it on a quarterly basis to make sure we were investing our marketing dollars in places that were actually getting us appointments, not just leads, okay? Now, it's interesting. There's some things that we had on here, and I know this is a little bit fuzzy. Like there was like television ads. Now, guys, I never ran a single television commercial in my real estate sales career, yet you'd be shocked at how many people actually checked that box. Same thing with radio. And while many of you are running radio ads, I think it's fantastic. I never did it, yet a lot of people checked the box. Now, the point behind that was to make me appear to be larger than I actually was, and people actually bought into that. There's one other little tidbit on this. I just saw it. It says pizza box ads. See, I don't know if you have a local pizza shop delivery company, right, that is in your local market area. And you know how they put those coupons on the top of the box and they glue them on there so that, you know, you'll tear them off and you put them in the drawer. And then the next time you're going to order, you're going to go to the coupon drawer. Has it expired yet? Nope, let's use it, right? Well, a past client of mine was the owner of this Blackjack Pizza. And I asked him, you know, let me ask, how much do you spend to print your coupons? And what if I could offset that expense for you 100%? Well, he got all excited about it. He said, absolutely. So I negotiated that I would get 50% of the real estate on that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Half was his for coupons, half was mine for whatever offer I wanted to put out to the market area. Now they delivered on average 15,000 pizza boxes a week.
Wow.
And all it cost me was printing. So I'd advertise, free right price analysis. I would advertise, access to our buyer instant notification system, which you all have, by the way. It's just your simple IDX. You get them registered on the site. Yet, nevertheless, it produced a ton of leads and, more importantly, massive brand awareness.
This is brilliant, dude.
Well, thank you. Next, we want to get into qualifying their motivation. So I need to buy a home between a week and a month and so on and so forth. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being an immediate need to purchase, 1 means I'm just curious. I rate myself as A, and then they just circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When is the best time for them to look at homes, so on and so forth. So it's every qualifying question you need to ask. Then on the final page of the new buyer survey is what I call the magic question. Now, if you've studied anything to do with behavioral assessments, specifically the DISC assessment, this question will make a hell of a lot of sense to you, right? So it says, if my best friend were to describe me out of the 4 following choices, which would they choose? Number 1, direct and to the point. Number 2, natural born salesperson. Number 3, warm, sincere, and friendly. Number 4, cautious and perfectly accurate. Now, depending on how they circled that, like if they circled number 1, well, you guys already know they're a D-type behavioral style. You can be very direct with this individual. If they circled number 2, well, you don't want to ignore social boundaries. You want to get friendly. You want to tell jokes and that sort of thing. Just focus on rapport. And the who you know is most important. Now, number 3, warm, sincere, sensitive, and friendly. You know that it's all about the feel of things. You know that they're probably kinesthetic. You recognize that you can't push those people too hard when making a buying decision. And by the way, the number 4 is a C-type behavioral style, right? So they are the calculated, conservative type individuals. These are the rocket scientists of the world, or the CPAs, or the engineers, right? And they're the buyer that shows up with a complete spreadsheet with 55 properties on it that's broken out. Everything from average price per square foot to average days on the market, and everything else highlighted, the 23 that they want to see the inside of, right? so nevertheless, the next form on that clipboard was the loyalty agreement, or the service pledge. So this is what I call the soft sell buyer agency. It tells them all the great things about buyer agency and none of that scary stuff. Like if you bought from another realtor, you still owe me a commission, so on and so forth. Are you an A, B, or C buyer? Now this form is brilliant, by the way, because it gives them a definition as to why we're asking the question in the first 2 paragraphs. Then paragraph 3, 4, and 5 gives the definition of first, an A buyer. What does that mean to be an A buyer? Second, a B buyer, meaning they're ready, willing, just not able. There's something that must happen first. A C buyer, is kind of a looky-loo, right? So at the bottom you see that it says, I've read the above and feel I am a blank buyer, A, B, or C. So in terms of qualifying their motivation, guys, it really doesn't get much easier, does it?
No.
All right. So then they're given this workbook. Now, it's printed on ledger-sized paper. It's folded over in half, and it's saddle-stitched in the middle. So it's an 8.5 by 11 workbook. On the front, it says, we're buying a home. It's a powerful affirmation, right? As they open the front cover, you'll see that it's a presentation that requires them to fill in the blanks as we go through this, right?
Oh, okay.
Now, the reason for that is because while I had perfected the initial counseling session, I knew what to say, how to say it, when to say it, what questions to ask. What I recognized is that they were kind of like glazing over, especially after 10 minutes into the conversation, that it was literally going in one ear and out the other, that it wasn't sticking at all. So I went to church one Sunday morning, and I look over and I see this little kid, and he's got his pen out, and the pastor had a very similar system like this, right? So a word would appear up on the screen, and that little kid, man, he just dove in and he grabbed his pen and he started writing. I said, that's how I'm going to get them to engage, right? That's how I'm going to get them to connect the psychology with the physiology, actually write it down, and then remember more of what they write down instead of what they just hear. So the first page and second page are fill in the blank. Third page is taking notes on the homes that you see, as is the fourth. Becoming pre-approved, it gives them a PI calculator and what the lender requires. Now, at this point, they're already pre-approved. I got permission from my lender to give them a call. Yet occasionally, I would do this presentation at an open house, and it was just nice to have there. Now, the last page of the workbook is really just all the important dates from their contract. So once they went under contract, our client care manager for buyers would call them up, have them fill in the blanks direct from the contract, instruct them to tear it out, put it up on the refrigerator. And what this did is it eliminated a lot of unnecessary phone calls into the office, right? So then they were escorted back to the conference room, which, by the way, the call coordinator gave them our leather-bound food and drink menu so they could order their snacks, their drinks, whatever it is that they wanted. And they would stage that in the conference room, and that stuff was all waiting for them, whether it was coffee or tea or Diet Coke or whatever, a bag of chips, whatever. It was all waiting for them. And this is what they saw up on the flat screen in the conference room. Again, it says, we're buying a home. So I'd go in, introduce myself, and I would start with the Ford technique, by the way, because I am a D-type behavioral style with a lot of C, which means I'm pretty schizophrenic. Yet my natural tendency is just to dive right in and get right to business, right? So I would always start with FORD. It stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams. It allowed me to establish rapport and find some commonality. And I found when I did that it really greased the skids for the presentation. So imagine we've gone through that you're my buyer, that you're going to fill in these blanks. And every time a word appears, you're going to fill in that word in the blank in your workbook. Okay, so in this process, and I just say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm going to have you fill in some blanks, because one thing I know for sure, the things we write down are the things we tend to remember rather than just hearing it, right? And this is probably one of the largest investments of your life. Is that correct? So I want you to learn faster today. I want you to retain more of what you learn, because this is an education process. In fact, I want you to understand the difference between a salesperson and a consultant. See, it's my belief that nobody likes to be high pressured into a buying decision. I'm no different. That's why we fully committed to the consultative approach to selling real estate here at the Kokoszka Group. I'm going to present you with the options, and you're going to make an educated and well-informed decision. And that is what you want, right? So yeah. Talk to me. Why do you think, Tristan, why did I start with that point?
Well, you're separating yourself from all the rest of the real estate agents, and I think that in itself just changes the perception of who you really are. You're more like a friend than trying to sell them on something.
There you go. So if there's any apprehension, if there's any walls between us, it was my intention to begin beating away at that wall till it falls down, like right at the very beginning. Okay. So buyer's market versus seller's market, we'd have a little fun talk about that and what type of market are we in and what does that really mean? Then we'd get into the market condition and inventory. So average list price to sales price ratio, 99.2%. So let's do some simple math real quick. If we took the median price of $228,000 and we multiplied that by the list price to sales price ratio, well, we can see that the sellers on average are coming down to $226,176. Now, The reason I would share this information with you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is frankly, I would rather turn you down now than disappoint you later if you think you could come in and offer 5 or 10 or 15,000 less than the request price and actually expect to buy that home. So with that said, I've got a very direct question for you. If I found you a home at $228,000 and the seller's only willing to come down a couple of $1,000s, is that going to be okay with you? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what did we just do, guys? What did we just do? Talk to me.
You just prepare them for the biggest objection you can get when they're looking at property. We're like, well, you know.
See, we've all been there, right? Where you take them out, you show them 30 homes, you finally narrow it down into the one that they want to buy. And what kind of an offer do they want to make?
Dude, low ball.
Low ball. You know it's not going to be accepted. And here's the point. You don't need practice writing contracts, okay? We want to write contracts that actually stick. You know, a good friend of mine, Todd Crockett, he taught me a script so many years ago when we used to teach the Howard and Star Power universities together. And he said to me, Shon, how many times does a buyer prospect ask you, well, what do you think we should offer? I said, well, all the time. So when we combined this script with what you just learned, and Todd said, Shon, I kind of look at it like birthday cake. Meaning, let's say you're across the kitchen and you're at a birthday party and somebody yells at you, hey, Tristan, you want a piece of cake? Well, if you're like me, you'd probably maybe turn that down, right? Because I'm trying to diet, I'm trying to this, I'm trying to that. Yet let's just say that they cut the cake, right? They put it on a plate. They put a fork underneath it, and they grabbed a napkin, and they reach it out to you and to hand it to you. If you're like me, you're probably going to take a bite. So we recognize the average list price to sales price ratio is 99.2%. Here's my input. Why don't we come in at 98.9%? Let's make it just tempting enough that the seller is going to eat it. Make sense?
Makes sense.
All right. So back to the educational piece of this. See, one of the things I do recognize, the easiest way to build trust and rapport with people is to teach them something they don't know, to educate them. In fact, education builds trust. Through trust, that could and should lead to a professional relationship. So we want to tell them a little bit more about the market. See, listing inventory is down 36% from the same time last year. And when inventory is down, demand goes up. And when demand goes up, well, prices, they also go up. So I want to commend you on your timing of jumping into the market. And no matter what it is, you commend them on their timing, right? No good market, no bad market. There's just markets. And the only market that matters is the one between your ears. So approval for your financing is the next expectation that we've got to set, right? So I want to talk to you about the benefits to you as the buyer. Now, I want to put you in the seller's shoes just for a moment. And let's assume that you just got a call last night from your employer, and they're going to relocate you to Seattle, and you get to be there in 3 weeks. So the first thing you do is you call your real estate agent. You say, I need to sell this house, and I need to sell it fast. So the first day on the market, there's 2 offers that come in. Now, the first one's $2,000 less than your request price, yet it's all cash. They can close within the time frame that you require. Now, the second offer that came in, well, they heard about the first offer, and they're really excited. They really want your home. In fact, they've offered you $5,000 more than the request price. However, they haven't been to see a lender. I mean, heck, even their realtor doesn't know if they can qualify. Knowing you have to be there in 3 weeks, which offer are you going to take? I mean, it's sure the sure deal for cash, isn't it? I mean, I would as well. So what I want you to recognize, when you have full underwritten approval, where all you need is an appraisal, essentially, that turns you into a cash buyer. It saves you money in the negotiations, no doubt, and it gives you leverage in a multiple offer situation like we're experiencing on virtually every deal in today's market. And here's the best part. It gives you the confidence knowing that every home that you look at, you have the wherewithal to buy it. Doesn't that feel great? So yeah. Good job on getting your pre-approval in place. Let's move on to the next point. Let's talk a little bit about agency and my fiduciary responsibilities. And first off, 100% of my clients, well, they choose buyer agency. As I mentioned before, the average list price to sales price ratio is 99.2%. I've tracked my averages. Over the last 6 months, I'm at 98.3%. So I'm saving you essentially 9/10 of a point. If you're buying a $300,000 house, that means I'm going to save you $2,700 more than the typical agent due to my negotiating ability. Nice. 70% of my time is spent working with buyers. I'm able to see over 200 homes per month. I know the market better than anybody. And once I get that picture in my mind, I intend to take you right to it. I would tell them about the buyer instant notification system. By the way, when you give your IDX a unique name, It's their perception. Remember, they only buy a house once on average every 8 years. It's their perception that you're the only realtor that offers that.
Whoa.
So the best part about buyer agency is that I can answer you in a paragraph instead of a sentence. So what I mean by that is if it's a divorce situation, a pre-foreclosure, a relocation situation, as your agent under contract, it's my job to identify, uncover, dig up, and share that information with you. And I know you'll agree with this statement. Information is power in negotiations. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. So all I need is the tool necessary for me to represent you, to dig up that information and negotiate on your behalf. We'll come back to that in a minute. I want to talk to you about how I get paid. See, all of my fees, well, they're paid for by the seller. And all brokers have access to the same information. The biggest difference in brokers is the speed in which they can get that to you. As I mentioned, 70% of my time is spent working with buyers. In fact, when I'm working with you, you are my only client. That is, you are the one I care the most about. And I'll do whatever it takes to find you the right home. So I want to talk to you real quick about for sale by owners. So if you see an ad in Craigslist or FSBO.com, or even driving through a neighborhood, you see a plastic for sale sign out in the front yard, I need you to call me first. You might say, well, why? See, for sale by owners will also pay my commission. Additionally, they either pay an attorney or a real estate agent, yet attorneys, well, they charge by the what?
Hour.
By the hour, no doubt. So I want to digress. I'll just share a quick story with you about the Johnson family. I helped them buy a home about 6 months ago. Now they thought they were doing the right thing. Okay. They saw a for sale by owner sign in a yard. They called the number, set up an appointment, went inside the home, fell in love with it. Now this is before they met me, right? And since they fell in love with it, they decided they wanted to buy it. So since this is the largest transaction of their life, they decided to hire an attorney to draft the paperwork and make sure all the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. Now, unfortunately, during the inspection period, they found significant foundation damage. And unfortunately, they had to terminate that contract. So not only did they not get the home that they wanted, they also got a $4,200 attorney's bill. It set them back a couple of months. They had to save up that money for their down payment again. And then they came to me. See, I'm commission-based. I only get paid when you own the home that you want to buy. So when you see a for sale by owner, will you call me first? Say yeah.
Definitely.
So I trust you guys are sensing that what we're really doing here is we're just setting the appropriate expectations with our buyer prospects. At the same time, we're giving them a valuable education so that they don't make mistakes through this process, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about new home builders. See, new home builders, well, they also pay my fees. However, if you go in there unrepresented, well, they think, well, I'm not going to pay that real estate agent their commission. So I first need to be present with you. And if for whatever reason I'm not present with you, I'm going to give you a stack of these open house guest passes. Now, guys, this is business card size, right? Business card size. And on the front, what it says is open house guest pass, like this. On the back, it says, I'm exclusively represented by the Kokoszka Group. Any questions about my needs should be directed to Shon Kokoszka, and there's my phone number. So the point is, when you use this open house guest pass, that on-site salesperson or a realtor holding a resale open house, well, they're going to call me and not you. And you don't want every realtor in Denver calling you, do you? Of course not. Right. So the benefit to you guys, well, it's professional representation. And remember, that on-site salesperson, they represent the seller and not you in the negotiation. So let's talk about the fun part. The fun part is you shopping for your new home. And I want you to understand that the average buyer looks at 5 homes before finding the right one. In fact, I always say this to my clients. I always say, don't be, just shocked if the very first home I show you is the one you want to buy. Because again, I get to see over 200 homes per month. I know the market very well. And once I get that picture in my mind of exactly what you're looking for, and if you're good at articulating that, well, it's my intention to take you right to it. See, a lot of agents, they're going to show you like 4 duds in a row, and they're going to show you one that's kind of mediocre, a little bit above average, and you're like, oh, those other 4 were terrible. I like this one. Let's buy it. I don't work that way. I just want to help you find the home that you want, okay? And by the way, one of the ways that I'll know if you're interested in purchasing one of the homes that I'll be showing you today is I'm just simply going to ask you if you'd like to buy it. Would that be okay with you?
Yep.
Perfect. And by the way, Tristan, if I forget to ask, would you remind me?
Oh, definitely.
Thank you. All right. So have you ever been in that situation where you've got a buyer inside a home, you know they like it, and you know that you should ask them to buy it, yet there's that gut gauge, right, that we all have? And that gut gauge holds us back from asking the question. So when we get permission to ask that question before we've ever shown them a house, well, then you step into the first house and it's comfortable, right? It's a natural thing. You just say, so what do you guys think? Do you want to buy this home? And they say, well, no. And then you get direct, immediate, honest feedback, right? When you get them inside a home that you know they love, don't ask. And if you've set it up appropriately, you'll actually get your buyer prospects to ask you to ask them to buy the house. Isn't that fun?
That's awesome.
So the most important key to finding the right home quickly, well, it's your feedback, right? So open up. I mean, I don't live there. I certainly didn't decorate it. You can't hurt my feelings, right? Purchase contract. I'm going to give you a blank copy of the contract. Now, guys, I think this is really important, especially for C-type buyers, to give them a full blank copy of the agreement. We're going to review the entire contract right now so that when we find the right home, you can move quickly. Go ahead and fill in the blank and ensure that we get the home that you want. Now, I don't go through every word. I don't go through every paragraph, yet I do reference the 4 major contingencies of every contract. That's title, inspection, loan approval, and appraisal. And I just give them a little education about the real estate sales contract.
Nice.
You know, you'll be writing an earnest money check. The total amount will be about 2% of the total offer price. Inspecting your no home. By the way, the inspection is for major items only. I'm talking about roof, plumbing, structure, heating, air, and safety type issues, okay? So it's not for the carpets are dirty, I want a $6,000 carpet allowance. It's not for the tiles cracked, right? It's for major items only. In fact, I've seen so many buyers step over dollars to pick up dimes. Meaning they
I have a question. Actually, It's not a question. I was raising my hand because I didn't want you to move forward I wanted to chime in for a second. Inspections are like, we see a lot of inspection questions in lab coat agents. And I think it's because, just because of this point here that so many agents don't cover the inspection process at the buyer consult. So the buyers just run amok, and they ask for the littlest thing. They go in there. It's not an inspection to renovate, a countertop. And so you see agents like, oh my gosh, my buyer is going out of control. But that's because they're not setting these expectations for them.
You're right, Nick. No doubt about it.
If you don't like the countertop, that's not going to impact the safety or, livability of the home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, how many times have we had deals blow up over stupid inspection items, that laundry list that the buyer wants to present to the seller. And the seller, of course, gets defensive and says they're not buying a brand new house. How many times you heard that, guys? Like hundreds, I'm sure. They're not buying a brand new house, right?
All the time.
So by setting the appropriate expectations, and by the way, another thing that we did to really curb this, because we recognize that if a deal is going to crash, given the systems on the front end of getting them pre-approved financially, it's going to crash because of the inspection. So what we did to curb that even further beyond setting the expectations is for every one of our buyers and sellers, we provided them with 2 hours of a free handyman service as a certificate that they received, at the signing of a listing contract, okay? Or at the closing table, we gave them 2 hours of a free handyman. So as my client care manager for buyers was negotiating the inspection items with the buyer, putting the list of things they wanted to request to the seller, she was instructed to just go through it and say, oh yeah, the handyman can take care of that. They can take care of that. They can take care of that. They can take care of that. And then this list that was this big, now it's all of a sudden just this big, right? And it's a lot easier to keep these deals together when you do that, which by the way, the handyman was willing to take his normal rate, which was $60 an hour, and give it to us at $30 per hour, because this was an opportunity for him to expand his book of business. So solid negotiations on the front end definitely helps with that process as well. All right. Appraising your new home, cost average $385. The best part is you won't overpay. We'll make the appraisal provision apply. I'm going to go through some of this really quickly. Loan approval is the next step in this process, and this is really a reason to celebrate. Yet it's important, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that you recognize there's a difference between pre-approval and a full loan commitment, okay? So you can't go out and buy a car on credit 3 days before closing, or go furniture shopping and put it on credit a couple of days before closing. Just don't do it, okay? Because you won't ultimately get the home that you want. Taking title at the closing, let's talk a little bit about the team. So what I recognized a long time ago is that once I'd get a buyer under contract, at least at first, I would kind of disappear. Meaning I would hand off the file to my under contracts manager, or what we called the client care manager for buyers. I would hand off the file. I had it stacked appropriately. She would take over from there. She would call and introduce herself. And it was like this stranger that just all of a sudden called me and said, they've got my file. What's going on? Right. So and then, by the way, the downside to that was that they felt like a number. Yeah. And when you're closing, 250, 300 sides per year, it's easy to start treating people like numbers. There's no doubt. So a couple of things we did. First, we took off every address off of our files, meaning we didn't track our files by property address. We tracked it by family name. So that reminded all of us that there's a family behind this transaction, right? We didn't track gross sales volume. We didn't track gross commission income. We tracked the number of families we were going to help that year. And it shifted our energy completely.
Dude, that's brilliant.
Up on our board. Yeah, up on our board, no property address. It was only the names of the clients. So what that did is it forced us to start memorizing, that's the Smith house, that's the Jones house, and it was, it created a different feel, a different energy. So nevertheless, it's important that if you do have a team that you're going to hand this transaction off to, that you set them up for success, that you set that relationship up for success. And I promise you, it's going to be a lot easier. So let's talk about the team. So you're always working with a specialist. Now the benefits to you are knowledge, availability, and communication. So this is the traditional real estate model. I saw some significant challenges with this, meaning the realtor is the center of the universe. They're juggling so many balls that if they drop one, they go to pick it up, they're going to drop all the others. And that perfect home, by the way, it could come on the market, go under contract before you get a chance to even see it, right? So I saw some significant problems with this model, and we created a new one where we take you, the client, and we make you the center of the universe, and we surround you with a team of specialists that are going to assist you through every step of this transaction. For example, my under contracts manager, we call her the client care manager for buyers. So her name's Cynthia. And once you go under contract on the home that you want to buy, she's going to become your best friend. In fact, she's in the office every day from 8 to 5 with a 1-hour lunch break. And she's here for one reason: to answer your calls, to dot the I's and cross the T's, and make sure you are extremely well taken care of. Okay. She's going to become your best friend in this process. In fact, I would call Cynthia in, I would introduce them, and I would just kind of future cast, you're going under contract and Cynthia's going to work with you. You follow me? So a lot of you are single agents. That's totally fine. You can still use this model. In fact, in these circles, rather than having a client care manager for buyers, you could have your office manager. You could have your managing broker. You could have your home inspector. And every one of you has a courier service, right? You could use your mortgage loan originator, your title sales executive, your insurance agent, and you've surrounded yourself with a team that's going to assist them through this process, okay? So let's talk about our goals in the transaction. My goal first is to get you the best price. Get you to the closing table with the fewest amount of hassles, and certainly do it within the time frame that you desire. And once I accomplish those, I'm going to ask you, who do you know? Because I don't make my living off one sale. I make my living off of happy past clients. So happy, in fact, they'll actually pick up the phone and they'll call me and say, hey, Shon, my aunt and uncle are looking to sell their house, or my brother's looking to buy a house, right? That's how I make my living. And referrals are the lifeblood of our business. So I'm curious, who do you know right now, maybe from work or Twitter, Facebook? Anybody kind of come to mind? Okay, well, when you do think of somebody, will you call me?
Yeah.
And by the way, I added another 30 seconds to my presentation that turned into over 6 figures in referral income.
What was that?
It was, at this point, I would say, and by the way, they don't have to be in our geographic territory. In fact, I've got a network of agents across North America that if you've got a cousin in California that needs to sell their house, I want you to call me first, because I will connect them with a solid agent that's going to steer them in the right direction and get them the most for their sale. Or if you've got an aunt who wants to buy a home in Wyoming, call me. I'll connect her with an agent that will give you the same level of service that I intend to give you as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So sometimes we just have to look at, how do we wring it out? How do we get as much out of our businesses as possible, right? And by adding a 30-second little pitch, it added 6 figures to the bottom line in referral income, guys. So let's talk a little bit about added value. So you can use our moving truck anytime. Our team, obviously, we're here to support you. a love it or leave it guarantee. Now, this is a certificate that they got at closing that stated that if at any time in the next 6 months they're not fully satisfied with the home that they buy, we'll sell it for them for free with 2 minor caveats. They have to pay the co-op agent's commission, okay? And they have to buy their next home from me. Now, guys, I offered that for 15 years and nobody ever took advantage of it, yet what that did is allowed them to really get off the fence, to make a quick decision, recognizing that the downside wasn't as significant as it could be if they didn't like the house, right?
I love that. You see a lot of people doing the 90-day guarantee. I actually think this is better because it's already people that you know, and you've built that trust up with them. You know, and it doesn't seem it doesn't seem as gimmicky to me, you know what I mean? It's like, listen, if you don't like this house that I helped you buy, because what happens when someone buys a house and it turns out the house is like a money pit?
Right.
Whether we like it or not as the agent, we're going to kind of be to blame. So this is kind of a way to buffer that and smooth it out.
Yeah. Great input, Nick, no doubt. So customer appreciation functions, I talked about that 2 webinars ago and what we did in terms of our investor seminars, what we did in terms of the movie nights and things like that, right? Discounts on, and by the way, go to your past clients that are in trade services, carpet, flooring, tile, carpet cleaning, painting, all that stuff. You can put together a list of vendors and ask them for a discount if you recommend it to their clients. Convenience and one-stop shopping, right? We had the in-house mortgage company, the in-house title company, an in-house development company, a new home building company, the real estate sales team. So it was convenience of one-stop shopping. And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, all of that is free to you. Remember, the seller pays all my fees. So I just have one other question for you before we go out and start looking at homes, and that is, can I be your agent?
Yeah.
So
I don't know, Sean.
So the bottom line is, guys, the natural progression of a great presentation that's informative and persuasive is the close. So the 20-point buyer presentation, by the way, we want to set appropriate expectations. We want to manage those expectations. We want to handle objections before they become objections, right? We want to build rapport and gain loyalty, teach them the rules of the game, ask for referrals in a way we get them, show fewer properties, and get the buyer agency contract signed every time. And if you see me live, I've got a 20-point memorization technique to where you as an agent will memorize all 20 of the points, frontward and backward, from the end to the beginning to the end, from the middle to the beginning. It doesn't matter. You can't get it out of your head. To memorize it, and I'll teach you how to memorize it in under 6 minutes, yet it is a live presentation, kind of hard to do in a webcast. So by the way, this presentation is fully customizable for any market, any team, an individual agent, whatever it is. You may purchase this if you desire. You just simply go to iconcoaching.com, visit the agent store tab. It's right there on the homepage, right? Just go to the agent store tab. In fact, I've discounted it for a short period of time. You can buy it for $199 thanks to our friends over at Lab Coat Agents and the value that they're bringing to all of us. So
tell me, for the coaching that you do, is it just teams? Is it single agent? Is it mega agents? What's your focus?
Oh, great question. Now, we've got 3 different models. I would say that the strong suit, though, the secret sauce of Icon is really to take people from the I do it phase to the we do it phase, from the we do it phase to the they do it phase, to truly own a business. And we've got the proprietary methodology and the knowledge on how to do just that. And we do it very effectively. In fact, I was joking with my 2 VPs this morning on our group call. I said, I'm working myself out of a job every day because I had a client this morning, well, actually not this morning, but last week said, this is going to be my last month coaching with you, Sean, because, I've gotten to the point of leverage that I don't even need to show up at the office anymore and I'm making money. So I want to focus on some other line extensions and I got to get my thoughts straight. I got to get my plan straight, and I'm going to come back to you.
Wow.
I don't even need to be there anymore and I'm making money. So I think I've got that on autopilot was his exact words. Yet I know we all know that we need people there to keep us accountable, to keep us on track. Yet I'm sure he'll be back. There's no doubt. So that I think is the secret sauce. Yet we've got 4 different options. We've got a group call that you can engage with, which is just $97 a month or $997 for a year. Now you get to spend an hour with me every single week in a Zoom meeting just like this, right? And our other coaching clients in the Icon Accelerator program. You get access to our learning management system as well, which is all the scripts, all the dialogues, objection handlers, and hundreds of videos that are all organized in this learning management system that you can just click, download, you can play it for your team, you can, whatever you choose to do with it, it's up to you. You can print it, you can build a script book, you can do all that stuff with that. And I get to spend an hour with you every single week in a mastermind format. The second option is one-on-one, and we call it Launch. It's merely an investment of $500 a month. It is a call every other week. You'll get traction slower, yet you'll get traction with that model. The third, is what we call champion coaching. This is our most popular program. It's $1,000 a month, yet it's a call every single week with the Icon coach. The fourth option, is what we call elite team coaching, where we spend one session with the rainmaker or team leader, whatever you choose to call yourself, the CEO, and then we spend another call the same week with the team itself to make certain that we have absolute alignment in where we're headed and the processes, the tactics, the strategies that we're going to employ to get there. So those three options, guys, if you're interested in that, just simply go to iconcoachingre.com and click on the complimentary business assessment. Now we're going to take you through an assessment where you rate yourself and your business on 10 different points of business development, leadership, and productivity. See, because I believe that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. I don't think we're a fit for everybody, and not everybody qualifies to work with Icon. So through that assessment, we're going to understand your model. We'll give you some suggestions on how to bridge any gaps that we discover, and you'll be given an opportunity, should you qualify, to engage in one-on-one coaching with Icon. So it's a complimentary process. Our consultants are top-notch, and I promise you it'll be worth your investment of time. You'll learn a lot about yourself and your business, and when you do that, I don't think you have anything to lose. Yeah.
I love it, dude. Thank you.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for bringing this to all the agents with me and the other coaches that you're working with. I think it's powerful to have different perspective. And I think I just love what you're doing. It's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to our next one for sure.
Yeah, I do two things that stood out for me, Nick. Just so you know, as a team, instead of tracking GCI on a board, make sure that you're tracking the family name. Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Nice.
That was good, dude. That was really good. And then the other thing is just re-emphasizing the fact that we need to sit down with the buyers and explain to them that only major items for inspections are what they're really requesting. That was key to me too, man. Anyway, awesome. Those two things. So nice. Thanks, John.
Hey, guys, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to add value to everybody. I look forward to our next one.
Thanks, guys.
Here, guys. Bye, Nick.
John.